Greetings to all participants of our panel and our guests. My name is Galina Bleikh, and I am the host of Leonardo Isas Laser Talks in Jerusalem. Our meetings are prepared by the INEMEA Association for Art, Culture, and Education. Unfortunately, we were unable to hold today's meeting offline due to our difficult sharing situation, so we are going online only. We have titled today's meeting Reimagining AI, Research and Creative Practice with AI Agents and Simulations. We will discuss how scientific advances in AI linguistics, philosophy, ecology, and public digital ecosystem transform artistic expression. Scientific breakthroughs in artificial intelligence are reshaping artistic practices, enabling creators to visualize complex relationships between technology, language, and nature. Our conference examines these transformative intersections through pioneering perspectives formed by artists in collaboration with scientists. This laser talk gathers artists and theorists who treat AI systems not as instruments but as actors embedded in contested ecologies of meaning, power, and relation. Drawing from linguistic, environmental computation, and public experiments, the works presented confront the metaphysical assumptions underlying AI, what counts as action, intention, or even selfhood. Rather than illustrating intelligence, these projects stage it as a negotiated property emerging between agents, systems, and environments. Machine agency becomes a site where political, ecological, and grammatical forces are rendered visible and available for intervention. Also, I want to thank our regular partners, CYLAND and Adam, as well as Lilia Chak, our coordinator, who has brought together remarkable speakers for today's meeting. I also want to thank Daria Kesler, our steadfast moderator, who always creates a wonderful atmosphere for our talks. In addition, I want to introduce you to those who remain behind the scene, our assistants, Ekaterina Drakunova and Anton Khlamov. I'll share a little secret with you. Today is Ekaterina's birthday. Nevertheless, she has dedicated this day to us. I wish you, Ekaterina, all the very best and thank you for your unavailable help. Now I would like to pass the floor to Lilia Chak, who is, as I already mentioned, the coordinator of our talk. Dr. Lilia Chak is an artist, designer, and science art researcher. She works in new media art, bioart, science art, AI art, generative art, video art, installations, photography, conceptual art, net art, and more. In 2022, Lilia Chak defended her PhD thesis in the Sorbonne's Art and Science Department in Paris. She is an author of the book Contemporary Practices in Bioart, When a Tree Becomes an Artwork, published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing in 2023. Her works have been presented internationally in exhibitions, articles, and lectures. Please, Lilia, tell us what guided you in choosing our wonderful speakers.
Hello, I'm truly excited to be here today. As someone who once spoke at the laser talk myself, it is a real joy and honor to now serve as the coordinator of such a fascinating and meaningful event. His word guided my choice of speakers for tonight. Once I attended a lecture by Dr. Denisa Kera at Bezalel Academy. It was for master's students and focused on artificial intelligence. It was very impressed by her ideas and the level of the discussion. That is why I wanted to invite her today. I know Claudio Filho through his work in the field of bioart. and an artist and researcher working with similar teams, I was curious how his interest in AI connects to ecological ideas. His concept of ecosystemic AI explores intelligence not just as computation, but as something shaped by the environment and living systems. I found that very inspiring. Dr. Liat, Lavi, and her project partner, the artist Lior Shalev, were recommended to me by Denisa. Their speculative project with the AI avatar Galina offers a fresh and powerful way of thinking about AI, language, and digital culture. I am very glad they all agreed to join us. Together, these speakers offer unique and thoughtful ways to reimagine artificial intelligence. Their work connects science, art, language, and ecology in surprising and meaningful ways. Now, I would like to pass the microphone to our wonderful moderator, Daria Kesler, who will introduce each of the speakers in more detail. Please, Daria.
Lilia, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here today, and I'm really glad to see so many wonderful people who gathered together. We have a great meeting today with different voices and visions from across the art world, and I'm excited to begin it. So let's start with the first biography and the first speaker. So Claudio Filho from Brazil. Claudio is an artist associate on the intersection of art science and technology and ecology, focusing on the collaboration between organic and artificial systems, formerly working with theory-based research, doctoral candidate at University of Campinas, and visiting research at Aalto University in Finland 2024-2025, authored publications including Emerging Uncertainties, Art, Ecology, and Climate Change in the Anthropocene in 2023, and Decentralizing Hegemony Knowledge in Art Practices, forthcoming this year. We are really waiting to it. Claudio's works have been featured in conferences, museums, galleries, and festivals. The Microscope Think in Finland this year. Purasamas in São Paulo in 2024, Emerging Extended Realities in China in 2023-2024, and this year, BioArt Society Mini Residency and Soul Space in Helsinki, Ice Bioarctic Residency at the Kilpisjärvi Biological Station in 2025. He's the academic coordinator in ACT Lab in Unicamp, Brazil, and a member of the RIT Research Group in Aalto University in Finland, BioArt Society Finland, and editorial council of Coleção Extremidades in Brazil, where he also works as editorial producer. Please, Claudio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daria. Thank you, Galina and Lilia. It's wonderful to be here with you today. I'm currently speaking from Kilpisjärvi Biological Station and the northern part of Finland. Yeah, it's a lovely place. We still have ice, so it's like a nice to do some field work in what is the summer in Finland. Now, I think I want to share my screen. So once again, thank you everyone to the invitation and to be here to explore a little bit what I'm doing and what I'm researching in the past 5 to 6 years. Besides being in Finland for a while, I'm based in Brazil, and I'm associated with University of Campinas. And also I want to explore here to discuss with you today is this idea of ecosystemic AI, who is actually original from Cesar Bio, that was my supervisor in my PhD, and I want to explore a little bit this idea, this kind of concept of ecosystemic AI in my own theoretical and art practice, and also to see this concept as ecosystemic AI as a method, as a methodology to challenge anthropocentric technological pathways while linking it to intelligence that is sourced on biological circuitry. So I've been working on art, technology, and ecosystemic relations since I was doing my master's in Brazil, and especially about humans and non-humans agency. So you can see in this kind of first title that is other than human agencies is my currently title of my PhD. And so my perspective, well, in my perspective, is urgent the need to rethink the basic assumptions about agency, decision-making, control, and our relations to biological and artificial cognizers. So one of my recent inquiries, you can see in my articles that is available on my website. But I want to start our conversation here today with one specific one that is I'm supposing it is going to be launched this month or through the next month. That is decentralizing hegemonic knowledge in art practice, and which should be available in the Technoethic Arts magazine. So in this article, I want to explore this kind of growing convergency of art, technology, and ecosystemic thinking that surrounds the idea of anthropocentrism and this hegemony of knowledge that is concerned and anthropocentrism. In similar ways, in this kind of the similar perspective, Kert and Hayes launched this book this year, Bacteria from AI, Human Futures with Non-Human Symbionts, was published this year by University of Chicago Press. And in the first pages, in the first paragraph of her book, Hayes points out that, yes, we need to avoid anthropocentrism, to avoid the idea that humans are the only knowers on the biosphere. So Hayes also points out that we cannot mistake the idea of anthropocentrism criticism with the anthropomorphism relations. So quoting Hayes, while we cannot avoid anthropomorphism, we see with the human eyes, and we think with the human brains, anthropocentrism can and should be contested. So anthropocentrism positions humans as at the center, conceptually, politically, socially, economically, declaring that humans are the most important species, and claim, on Earth, and the most entitled to exploit Earth resources for their own benefit. So I've been particularly interested in this idea of centrism in anthropos terminologies, and my perspective take the framework that position the critical way that human system as the dominant system on Earth's surface. And not only the agency of humans interfere into other biological systems, but also the agency that humans create as technological systems, and especially artificial intelligence, evokes a new type of agency, a new type of way of interfering in the Earth's surface. And again, quoting Hayes, with the dawn of the computer era, the things become even more powerful in their partnerships with humans because they had increasingly potent cognitive abilities. It's no exaggeration to say that developed societies have entered into a deep symbiosis with the computational media. So symbiosis, of course, is a term deployed into a biological context to denote interactions between two species living in close proximity to one another. Symbiosis has advanced so far that developed societies cannot afford not to use computational media. So with this idea of symbiotic convergency between humans, technology, and non-humans and ecosystem or ecosystemic thinking, I started to work both on theory level and art production about these kind of relationships. And I want to start our examples with the artwork that's been by me and my working partner, Fernando Oliveira, in 2023 called Data River. So in this artwork, we seek to question the human data ecosystemic relationships by intervening in the code that are behind the digital media operation. what we propose in this artwork is attention to these kind of invisible operations that make digital images, and also in our embodied relationships with both physical and virtual space. So what me and Fernanda did, so we had this massive data set of photos of rivers, and we get together the two data sets that we had is more than 10 years of photos, and we established a method. So the method was to apply is to subvert the geolocation, that I'm saying the real coordinates in the physical space of this kind of rivers, and include them as the vectors for some kind of decentralization of the programming of the digital image. So with these codes that we had, every photo we have the code that is the exact geolocation where the photo was taken it, and we use this kind of code as lines is kind of in the code lines of the virtual space. So what we did is quite simple. So every image has pixels. So we transform these pixels in curves. And when you transform these images in curves, you can also play with this kind of mathematical parameters that is in the image building. So, and the result of this experience was this kind of abstract images that is composed by the data set with the real geological codes. So this is one example that you can see this kind of movements of the pixels that is driven by the real geolocation by the rivers. So you can see that is kind of messy, but each was one pixel that is transformed by curves through, and this kind of movement of the curves is driven by the real geolocation of the rivers. So this artwork does not use generative AI, but takes the agency of AI as part of the poetic gesture. And once we cannot deal with all informations that we had in our data sets, we delegate this agency to organize and to input to the artificial intelligence and include them as part of the poetic gesture. However, in this artwork, that's called catastrophe cartographies that we made last year, we start to work with generative systems. So in this artwork, we traced data shared online regarding the large-scale criminal fires in the Amazon rainforest in 2024, actually 2023, 2024. So these fires spread toxic smoke from north to south from Brazil, in the Brazil region. So we track multiple reports, articles, satellite images about these fires, resulting in some kind of cartography of images that produce alongside these artificial intelligence systems. So what we want to discuss here was the implication of AI images and public media that shape political activities. So this kind of integration with this AI-generated system with the political decision makings in Brazil. Once the social media during the period of the wildfires, many images wasn't really directly related to the real wildfires. So what we've seen here in this slide is two images. The first one was produced by us using a prompt regarding the most repetitive words related to the Amazon wildfires. And the second one is actually a photo taken by Fernanda, who lives in the core of the Amazon rainforest in the city of Manaus. So what comes to the reality distinction of it's hard to tell what is true and what is not. But what I want to stress, this is only one example of the work. This has a lot of images. But what we want to stress is that AI generative images can have or can hold an impact on Brazilian political actions regarding the Amazonian wildfires. So these two artworks is, for me, in my perspective, is good examples to discuss this idea of integrating AI with the environmental thinking. That's what I've been working with the intersection of art, technology, and ecosystems. And that leads to the main topic of what I have to hear today, that is ecosystemic AI. So ecosystemic AI is actually not a definition made by me, but it's the definition from the artist and theorist Cesar Baio and Lucy H.G. Solomon, that together they are in this collective, in this artistic duo called Cesar and Luis. Cesar is from Brazil, and I've been working with Cesar at the University of Campinas. And we especially developed some of these ideas in the research group called Lab that you mentioned, Daria, the lab for art, science, and deviant technologies, and where I am the academic coordinator, and Cesar is the leader. And Lucy H.G. Solomon is an artist working on California State of University of San Marcos in the USA. So they defined this idea of ecosystemic AI in this article in 2020, that is an argument for an ecosystemic AI, articulating connections across pre-human and post-human intelligence. Quoting Cesar and Lucy, so they posit that an integrated AI, an EAI, an ecosystemic AI, that merges pre-human and post-human thinking would best meet the challenge of producing equitable decision-making without elevating human beings over our microbes, other species, or their habitats. This approach to an AI for a broad planet-scaled community well-being expands the definition of community to a complex network of entangled globally and locally scale ecosystems and their inhabitants. So Cesar and Lois asserts that AI model of the AI, the typical thinking of AI, is modeled in a way that human generates this kind of intelligence. And that intelligence reflects the centralized decision-making process that human intelligence, this kind of human thinking that's knowers, typically serves as human-specific goals. So it's made for humans by humans. So Cesar and Lewis ask, what if an AI could consider the composite needs of non-human life forms and include their interest and decisions? So it's basically the starting point of thinking about ecosystemic AI. And it's not only in a theory level, but we are at there, Cesar and Lewis and me and Fernanda, we are working on programming these AIs and doing an AI that's based not only from one perspective, not one from one human decision maker, but embracing other forms of thinking. So I want to start, of course, we are in the art world. So we are artists. So we present that through the artworks. So I want to start with the first example of artworks dealing with the ecosystemic AI, that is the generative cultures by Cesar and Lois. So the article is 2020, but they are working in the artistic practice way before. But the artwork, in this artwork, the artists overlap microbiological organisms, AI, and human system as a speculative restriction of networks across human and non-human entities. To push for this kind of ecosystemic technologies and intelligence is linked to the expansion of community to include non-human beings and environments that I said before in decision making. So the artist argues that such ecosystemic networks could be capable of taking into account the planet's human societies as well as the non-human species and their own environments, broadening the concept of community well-being and shifting from this kind of technological neutrality. So here you can see how the artwork functions. So I will try to get into what's happened here. So the artist choose, the starting point is the book, choosing the book that is a specific book for each installation. So the book usually reflects the desire of humans to control or to exercise dominance over nature. So some books are from Cicero, Plato, Descartes, and among many others. So once it is decided this book that is telling this kind of input of this kind of dominance of human over nature, the artist the artist put a microorganism on the surface of the book. So the artist contaminated the book with the microorganism called Physarum polycephalum that grows over the book. At the top of the dome, you can see in the image, a camera captured the growth movement of the microorganism. And this microorganism is not just one microorganism. Physarum polycephalum, in the Latin translation to English, recalls this kind of many brains, of many decision makings. So it's kind of a slimy mode that do not have this kind of one central system that controls all the organisms. So polycephalon, there is many brains. So that's why they're using these microorganisms. So when the microorganisms grows over the book, the camera that is at the dome transferred the data to an AI system. So the AI is capable to read the movement of the silent polycephalon and also can read which text that is formed by the movement of the silent polycephalon. Of course, the silent polycephalon is looking for food. So in the book, there's some oats. They eat oats. So the AI creates a language model that is not a large language model. It's like a small language model with the movement of the microorganisms. So in other words, the AI learns the movement of the microorganism and also the text that is involved. Because remember, there is a book, there is a text about human dominance. So the AI process, the process forms, and this kind of all process forms what the Cezanne and Lewis are calling this digital fungi that are able to connect, this is the interesting part, with the so previously called the Twitter account called Hello Fungus. So the text, when the microorganisms grows, they are going through some text. And this camera captures this text, transforms in the digital fungus, and can actually tweet this text in the Twitter, this kind of account, Hello Fungus. And not only create this kind of speculative poem, but also are able to eat, degenerate, and tweets degenerate other tweets made by humans. So the humans, their own Twitter accounts, can reply the tweets, and this digital fungus can do the same process, but what you are inputting in this in the Twitter. Yeah, now X. So and after this whole process, the tweets come back to the system and they are printed with this thermoprinted. Here you can see more. They are printed in real time. So this is one of the first examples that Cezanne and Lewis actually are dealing with the ecosystemic AI in a system that evokes the agency of the microorganisms in the programming of the AI. Yeah, here's another view. This is another exhibition actually of the generative cultures, and this was made in Brazil. And this other one was, if I'm not mistaken, in Singapore. Yes, in Singapore. So another example that I want to discuss with you is work that made by me and Fernanda that called this tea is a result of data visualization. So from a homemade tea recipe, we seek to connect this pre-human and post-human data information to artificial intelligence systems. We are attentive to scientific models, ancestral medicine recipes, and knowledge shared by non-European rituals and cultures. So what do you want to do with the aim is quite simple, but this actually is not, is to visualize how much information has on one simple interaction of drinking a cup of tea and its implications for historical ecosystems and for non-human entities. So this tea is made by these 5 plants, which when combined is a medicine for labyrinthitis. That is the condition which one loses the balance with the world. And we also thinking that this unbalance with the world is the same when we deal with this kind of overflow of information that we cannot access, that we need another type of agency to deal with. So this recipe was found in a very old book of medical teas that my mom has. So these plants these 5 plants are easily found in the Brazil flora, and we collected this plant is specific for this tea in Cerrado region where we are doing the exhibition at the time. So through an AI software, we wanted to integrate all sorts of information, all sorts of data that we can find in 25 hours, and we set social media. So we set Instagram and Twitter to do this research. So we programmed this AI to collect this data, and over 24 hours, more than 2,500 tweets and images were captured, and we want them to integrate with this organic and historical data that has in these medical recipes. So we want to overlap the data information with the actual tea recipe. But the question is how? How are we going to layer non-human and the AI informations in the artwork? So what we did, so we decided to build this kind of optical device, this kind of installation, that through the tea interaction, such as drinking and smelling, and seeing the information at the same time. So we created this kind of tea mug that has a screen on the bottom part that you could access the video with all the data that we are collected in a period of 24, it's a 24 hours. So we did like a video of 2 minutes. So it's kind of non-stop information and in this kind of video. And sound narrative in this kind of headphones. There's not only explaining these 5 plants, but also this ancestral tradition of medical teas in Brazil, especially in my region where I was born, that came not only for the indigenous people, but merged the African people that comes to Brazil. Yeah, so I think I'm running out of time now. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I think these works that I present to you is a glimpse for to think about ecosystemic AI. And of course, there are a lot of other projects that is going on, not only in Brazil, but also now 20% in Finland. And the aim is to integrate this non-humans intelligence and non-human systems to AI and see what kind of sensibilities and embodied systems then we can make in art perspectives. And that's it, guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting, and I'd love to hear more. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time, but it was really fascinating. Thank you. So, and now I'd love to introduce Dr. Lavi and Lior Shalev. They are both from Israel. Dr. Lavi is a researcher and senior lecturer working in the field of philosophy of AI and in the creative spheres. She's a senior lecturer at Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design and a teaching fellow at the Technion Institute of Technology. At Bezalel, I used to teach at the Visual and Material Culture Department and at the Master Program in Visual Communication, where she currently leads the Visual Communication, AI, and Economics Lab. Lior Shalev is a visual artist and content creator with a bachelor's degree in fine arts education and master degree in visual communication from Bezalel Academy of Art and Design. She combines documentary, animation, and writing to explore meaningful experiences. Work blends personal, broad, and imagined stories through diverse materials and media. So I'm really glad to give the floor to you.
Thank you, Lilia and Galina, for the invitation and for organizing this event, and Daria for the lovely introduction. Let me share my screen. I would like to present today, along with Lior Shalev, who is collaborating with me on this project, is called Lila. And my title for this talk is Monsters versus Trolls, AI-generated grassroots metaphysics and the birth of Lila. So Lila is, what is she? Really, I'm going to discuss this in greater detail, but she is a delegate of myself. She is a spokesman. She is an extension. She is a monster, and she represents the ideas that I'm developing in my book, and her birth was also a product of the ideas that I'm exploring in my book. So I will zigzag between Lila and these ideas so that you can get the full picture. So I'll start by saying that Lila is a virtual avatar created after my image, but of course exploiting generative AI to create different appearances, to clone my voice, and much more. She's not yet an autonomous agent. She does not write her own texts. She's currently more of a spokesman or a spokeswoman. But she's striving to become autonomous, and this is a process that is that we've begun to explore. And I would say that she's not yet mature enough to become autonomous, but she is, or maybe she's having growth pains, if you'd like, or taking theory lessons to get her license. So she's an agent in the process of making, and I'll tell a bit more about her in a minute. Lila was born out of this book that I'm writing. It's not yet published, but soon to be completed, titled All Some or None, Grassroots Metaphysics and AI-Generated Epistemic Shifts. I will say very, very briefly that the thesis of this book is that the discussion or the debate over machine consciousness on whether machines could become conscious, starting 2 years back or more or less since ChatGPT arrived, entered our lives, is now for me less of a philosophical question that needs to be decided, as it is a philosophical question where the public takes a stance. Each and every one of us interacting with these anthropomorphized systems are actually taking a stance and building our own metaphysical viewpoint on whether or not machine consciousness is possible. I added here quotes from Schultz and from Bucher speaking about the algorithmic imaginary, which I think is very important. That at this present moment, it's not so much about philosophers debating machine consciousness in conferences. It's not so much about cognitive scientists. They all play a role. However, the public is the one actually taking a stance on this matter. And given that, what I am predicting or trying to elaborate in this book is that we're actually, humanity is going through a very deep change. This deep change could actually take several forms. It's not yet decided what kind of change it's going to be, because we actually have 3 courses of actions. So the first one, under the title All, means that we will all come to believe in machine consciousness. We will all come to attribute consciousness and subjectivity to machines. This is more or less, it's not exactly, but imagine the post-humanistic agenda turning from a vision explored by theorists and artists into a social reality. Okay, so at present, it's not a social reality. It's more something that we explore, but it has very deep implications if it turns out to be a social reality. The second possibility is some meaning that some of us will believe in machine consciousness and some would not. This is, again, a very big change in humanity because it frames machine consciousness as a matter of belief. And I would even say somewhat religious belief. And this could divide humanity in very interesting ways and create power structures that we're not accustomed to. And the last possibility is that none of us would believe in machine consciousness. And I argue in the book that this does not put us back in 2021. Rather, the fact that we have machines that are able to produce such results and act in ways that we used to attribute to cognitive, conscious, intelligent beings, and we would not call that consciousness, and we would not ascribe subjectivity to machines, implies that we would have to redefine subjectivity. We would have to redefine what it is about humans, again, if we reject the idea of machine consciousness that separates them from the machine. So in each and every one of these possibilities, I argue, humanity is going through what Foucault called an epistemic break, or in the book, epistemic shift. That means that we're not only changing our views, we're actually stepping towards a new era where knowledge is redefined and subjectivity, human subjectivity, is redefined in a manner similar to what Foucault is describing of the 17th century and the 18th century, the birth of enlightenment. Okay, so this is a very dramatic shift, but actually the book discusses at least 3 shifts in the making. The fact that the book speaks of grassroots metaphysics, that is, metaphysical views held by the wider public or held by individuals, not necessarily by philosophers, also set me out to look for the public discussion of machine intelligence and to think of how, as philosophers, we can take part in this discussion. This is not disconnected from political and economic powers that are shaping the field. At the moment, there are great powers that are shaping the field of artificial intelligence. There are actually big tech companies connected to power sources and politics and geopolitics, and there's an arms race, and all these players are actually taking part in shaping the discourse around machine subjectivity. And they are not shy about using social media. To the contrary, sometimes they own social media or use it to profess certain ideas that are mostly in support of the idea of machine consciousness. If we look at people like Sam Altman and others, or to warn about it, but they're really very active players within this game. And these are people, it's not just these specific people, and I'm not targeting them in any way. What I'm saying is that this debate is going in the media, and we have people who are trying to influence the public's opinion on this specific matter through social media. And through trolling, if you'd like, or through exposing them to partial information sometimes, and also sometimes trying to influence political stakes. In this reality where the debate is going and the public has a very important role in it, and trolls are shaping our public discourse, I've decided to create a monster following Donna Haraway, which I'm sure most of you know, with the Cyborg Manifesto. Donna Haraway speaks of the importance of monsters and of monsters as a form of liberation. And this, of course, was also followed by many theoreticians afterwards. So the idea is that monsters could somehow give us a different way of being in the digital sphere, that they could turn us into cyborgs, or they could allow us to escape certain power structures in our strive for different kinds of freedom. And Lila is a monster. Lila is a monster in many, many ways. She doesn't always take a monster appearance, but she is a hybrid. She's sometimes a hybrid with animals, or sometimes a hybrid with aliens, sometimes hybrid with vegetative life forms or bacteria. And she's also very playful with religions. I didn't include in this presentation any videos, although this is her medium, because of the Zoom format, and I didn't want to burden our video connection. But I urge you to use the QR code and actually visit Lila's page on Instagram and be one of the first people exposed to Lila, because it's really a project in the pre-launch stage. So Lila is exploring different religions. She's also exploring different genders and different practices of different sort. I wanted to say something very shortly to comment on the relationship between me and Lila, and on our kind of symbiosis, but not exactly, definitely not at this point. So following this paper by Joanna Bryson, I thought this could be a good reference. There is an ongoing debate on whether these AI agents are actually something that we collaborate with, or you could look at Ethan Mollick's co-intelligence, and we've just heard Claudio suggesting something along these lines, that we could actually think of them as our partners or as our collaborators. But this is not the only option. So at present, the role that Lila takes is actually of a delegate. She does not replace me, not just yet. She's a delegate to which I delegate some of the communication of the ideas in the book in a very experimental way, and she communicates them. This is a relationship that is transforming. I have an 11-year-old boy. He's just entering puberty, and our relationship is transforming in very similar ways. She's going to become independent in not very long, but she needs a lot more. She needs to grow, if you'd like, and she needs my guidance so that she can grow and become a respectable adult on her own right. So this is a process that she's currently going through. In a way, Lila is part human, part machine, in the sense that she's currently fed by my DNA, both in the physics and in the ideas and intentions that she's being fed to. She communicates the ideas that are already explored in the book. And she has my voice. So in a sense, when she does become autonomous, she will still not be entirely machine. She will still have my residue or my DNA, if you like, my digital DNA installed in her. Lior, this is your slide.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Liat. So yeah, this is my slide. So creating Lila and bringing her to the world of social media, Liat and I figured out that there are plenty of manuals on how to make content go viral, formulas for engagement or how to get more followers, reach, and likes. But the real question is what happens when the goal isn't just to get attention or followers, but actually telling a story with meaning. And we've been asking ourselves questions. How do you make complex philosophical ideas accessible both visually and textually in a way that resonates with people beyond the usual circles? And that creates an emotional connection. So maybe it's in Lila's tone of voice or her fashion, her setting, or even the angle of the shot. And I think that this is the real challenge of translating Liat's ideas and mind into something that feels immediate and part of the everyday culture without losing what truly matters. So this isn't just about design or video editing. It's where philosophy meets storytelling and visual communication and design. And I can honestly say that this ride is amazing. And it's enjoyable, and it's one of the most beautiful projects I've ever worked on. So I also urge you to go and look and watch and meet Lila. And she has very interesting things to say about this world. Yeah, and that's it for me.
Thanks. I'd just like to say that Lior is the creative mind and the special sauce in this recipe. And also I'd like to say that as a philosopher who's very used to, I'm actually, I studied the art and I explored art, but I'm a philosopher for a very long while now, and my practice is writing. And it's actually very challenging to try and take ideas that were meant to figure in an 80,000 words book into 80 words posts, and still have this depth and still try to communicate the ideas that I think are very important, the implications that these epistemic shifts are carrying for humanity. And also, I will say that this is a lot of fun. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I really love what you told us about digital DNA, this kind of new monsters, a bit made of humans, a bit made of something digital, carrying a great knowledge. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we'd love to continue. I'll be happy to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Denisa Kera, also from Israel. And Denisa is a philosopher and designer exploring creative strategies of public engagement with emerging science and technology. Her innovative work combines design, technology, and critical inquiry across multiple domains. Winner of 2020 Special Jury Prize, Digital Dozen Breakthroughs in Storytelling Awards, Kera has developed groundbreaking projects like Liat, a design fiction that mirrors fairy tale narratives with smart contract prototypes using satellite data to explore governance models. Her research spans diverse international contexts, including fellowship at the University of Salamanca, Weizmann International Institute in Berlin, and the Center for Distributed Ledger Technologies at the University of Malta. She investigates algorithm governance, blockchain technologies, and regulatory frameworks for emerging digital infrastructures. Kera's global scholarly work focuses on open and citizen science, bridging academic research with industry partners and intergovernmental organizations with UNESCO. She has been instrumental in establishing science and technology platforms, including founding SCAR, Society of Science and Art Governance, and directing events like Transgenesis Festival and Maker Fair Prague. Recognized for the pioneering approach, she described her work as grassroots R&D culture and gig diplomacy, combining ethnography research with design to explore innovative technological and social paradigms. Denisa, please, I'm really glad to share this floor with you.
So thank you, and sorry you found some old CVs. It's incredibly long and boring. So welcome everyone, and I'm really happy to be part of a Leonardo event because this is my youth. It's Leonardo. We organize conferences in Prague, and I'm in Prague. I'm stuck in Prague, in this city of homunculi and golems and so on. So maybe it's the right place to have this presentation. And I'll try to go quickly through some slides because I want to get into something new I'm working on, and I'm curious about your opinion or reaction. So just like Liat, I'm actually really excited or interested in this grassroots metaphysic. And I'm very grateful for her to invent that term that I was missing in my work. But the way I look at the grassroots metaphysic is through a practice and a community practice in these hacker spaces, maker spaces. So what do? I want to present some experiments I do with agent-to-agent simulations and explain why I'm doing it, which will be this talk about institutional grammar. And yeah, I also have like some book which I wrote. And what's interesting about the book, it's like 3 years ago almost now, it has a model. So you can talk to the book like a person, but it doesn't use I intentionally did. It's like it speaks in the third person, and you'll see why it's important. And by the way, with this cloning of people and putting us into these clone voices and some, I love these experiments, Liat, that you're doing with yourself and your writing and all of that. We just recently we cloned without consent Evgeny Morozov, and he was a critic at my book reading, which was quite a disturbing experience. So what do I mean by grassroots metaphysics that is practice in a way? I'm interested in prototypes and in types of practices that invite others to see what is inside the black box. So that's why I was always interested in open science, citizen science. And where does that happen? It happens in the Tel Aviv makerspace, but I usually, wherever I travel, I'm always in some makerspace communities. So these are my collaborators, and we have something called Design and Policy Lab, which is between the university, the hackerspace, and actually I have some government consulting function. So I'm trying to connect these worlds. It basically started 2 years ago when we were playing with these like agents that take a proverb and they turn it into a random funny regulation, like if an AI chatbot says something stupid, it shall remain silent for 2 minutes or pay a fine of €2, inspired by some traditional Talmudic proverb. And the funny thing about this, we also gave the model body. It was a slime. We created the body, and then you would touch the slime and create these random proverbs, regulations, and so on. Why did we do it? It was a way to learn how models function, but also it became part of something more interesting, where we used the same technique to create an AI stakeholder agent, which took part in consultation processes related to the EU AI Act. And then it just got more crazy. The next year, I was like, why one agent? Why not more agents? And why not use agents to do stakeholder deliberations? So real people create their digital double as agents. We let the agents quarrel, and then we compare what happened in real life and what happened in the virtual. How did agents agree and how did we agree? But it was also, for me, an experiment in terms of like seeing the agents for the first time basically as a theatrical stage, where I rehearse an argument, I see the dead ends, I even experience some form of a catharsis, that I see some conflicts and some possibility, like no solution or some possibility of solution. And I'm still interested in these workshops where stakeholders make the prompts for the agents and then play some form of deliberative theater. There was also something more practical we did with the collaborator Lorenzo Cavallon, where we use it for disinformation campaigns. So we created like an agent that was like the angel trying to save the woman from Napoli that is attacked by some horrible Russian troll that was trying to convince her in something. What we found out, actually, even if everyone says this is the strategy, agents that convince citizens to be good, we were not happy with that, and we proposed something else, something where citizens come and they experience the way they can be manipulated, something like we call it AI purgatory. So my interest in agents go deep. And the reason is this, I'm a bit disturbed that the idea of AI regulation is very technocratic, basically. It's some form of a governance by experts for machines, but without the publics. And it, of course, leads to the Cold War, AI Cold War, in which we are now. But in like what concretely I don't like are, I call them this cosmo-managerialism, this idea that we can align model with the perfect ideal politics. So there is no perfect ideal politics. There is no perfect universal we, and the work on the we is very complex. And that work on the we is what I'm interested in. But just to put a context, it's an old problem. Back in the 18th century, they were quarreling, should be politics be grounded in the natural order by the physiocrats? And on the other side, people that are liberal, and I am a classic liberal, would dispute this as a form of a despotism of mathematical truth and natural laws that are arbitrary, and that we still need a political process. And so, yes, I'm on the side of the political process. So this is my latest research, how I'm trying to support that political process. So while doing all kinds of experiments with these agents, I came up with something really interesting. And it's that all these agents basically are using Indo-European languages. And Indo-European languages like English, not Hebrew, and I cannot much say about Hebrew because I don't speak Hebrew, but other languages in Europe, and so on, they have this strong idea that the subject is active and the object is passive, that it's something done to someone. Strangely, this idea is very much also transpires into the way we imagine regulation and politics. And this is something that institutional grammar people study. So it is an interesting group of people that is trying to abstract our regulations and the way we understand law and the way we try to like control society, or we try to engage people in governance through this very like abstract category of who is the actor, what is the actions, what are the conditions, what are the sanctions. But in principle, it is this idea that a good regulation presupposes this structure of who does what to whom, the subject, verb, object in the European model. So what I'm actually doing as a philosopher of language, which was my original MA and actually part of my PhD, I became curious. I said, okay, what are some other, it's called linguistic typology languages, and it is the ergative languages like Basque, but there are also many other, we call them language isolates nowadays. It's a bit of a problem to find models for these languages, but I managed to find models for these languages, and they're interesting. Why? Because they have this strange ability to decentralize the idea of agency and agent, to kind of push the context, the dependencies, the relational roles on a level of the grammar. So for linguists, this is like a big question. What does it mean? Is it just syntactical? Is it just decorative? Or it means something more substantial? There are all theories that it's influenced by the culture of the Basque country and so on. Just to explain you the difference between this Indo-European and Basque language. So the difference are, of course, that the rules are not expressed just in very formal ways. Like many of these language isolates, rules are expressed through stories, silence, shared memories, or in languages that don't divide actions and conditions so neatly. Here is an example. In typical Indo-European languages, we would have a rule: fishermen must register before entering the port. Very clear who is the actor and what will happen if that's, if that condition is not met. There is no fishing in spring. This is like a nice example of what we mean by ergative structure. No explicit agent, no clear must or sanctions, no command. It's based on respect, memory, who knows, embedded in some ecological rhythm, respect to the sea. It's pass-through stories, not rules. I will not bore you with the linguistic explanation in Basque why it's called ergative absolutive construction, but I'll go through something else. So the way I approach this issue of ergativity, which interests me, is not going through linguistic theory. I actually stage it. I take agents, I put them on a Basque language, and I actually use very minimal prompts, not these very complex rules and what they should do, not do. No, I give them very simple assignments. So here I have an English, and I need comparison. So I have an English farmer that speaks English and Basque farmer that speaks Basque. And I give them data set from Kaggle. Here on smart farming, it's like a large data set that looks like this. It's about humidity sensors and, like very boring data, farms, humidity sensor, what crops are grown. And I'm basically asking the English farmer to propose a rule based on the data it sees. And then I ask the Basque farmer to propose the rules. So the English farmer interrogates and there are no, I don't tell them what to focus on. It's just, how would you manage this farm, or what should we focus on? The English farmer interrogates management decisions. The Basque farmer interrogates ethics of land use. And that is without me telling them what to do. It's deep in the structure of these languages that the values, the ideas of governance is very different. Both use data, but one seeks compliance within constraints, other harmony within ecosystem. So here is like something, I do some small, I test it first on ChatGPT, and then I use Python scripts for some more complex things. Then I did something even more funny. I was like, okay, take the data set. I gave it to ChatGPT, and I said, now create personas based on that data set. I didn't say use the sensor or, what will be the persona, what will be the agent that will speak. And ChatGPT by itself, in English, I haven't run this in Basque, which I should have. In English, it picks up as an agent the farm. So the farm speaks to the English and the Basque farmers, and it speaks in a different voices. You can see, to the English, you make a fair point about the sprinkler. On hot days, I lose plenty to evaporation. It's not good management. To the Basque farmer, it says, I hear your concerns about rhythms and land fatigue, but in my flatlands, we don't have a communal council or grazing rotation. It's me, a contract, and the weather app. Your kind of care is admirable. Anyway, I do a lot of these experiments now with the Basque and English agents. They're very minimal. For example, here, and I can show the system. I have it in the background now, but it's all on GitHub. You can, if you're able to run Python scripts on your Visual Code Studio or somewhere you can play with this. For example, here I actually ask a very simple question: should AI be open infrastructure or controlled by few corporations? I take 2 agents, 2 Basque and 2 English. They chat for, I don't know, 3 rounds, 5 rounds, 6 rounds. I give them high temperature and I get very different results. The English agents position themselves as observers or designers of the governance, the decision. The Basque agents speak as participants in shared system of value and responsibility. So on one side, and I really think it's the language. It is this language with this like active idea of agent. On one side, system design, compliance, incentives, which is most of these AI regulations we have. On the other side, type of regulations I'm more curious about, which invoke trust, the social body, moral agency, conditions for collective self-determination. I will not go why Basque is for me so important. I hope you got it, that ergativity. I'm also looking now into some other language isolates. But I'm also, using the log of these discussions the agents have in different models. I also have a pure Basque Llama model in which I can run some more interesting agents. I basically try to analyze the data in more scientific way. So here, what the agents, the Basque and the English agents focus more on. So we see that in case of the English agents, it's more about pragmatism, normativity, or risk aversion, while the Basque, you really do see that community orientation and institutional trust plays much more role. Or I do here is which agents, how moral responsibility is attributed in the different language. How do they perceive public corporations, government institutions, and what is their function? So we see in the Basque case, it's interest in open system and transparency is something they share. But for example, here we also have open systems and norm setting as something important. Here it's not important. Or here corporations are an important player in terms of their risk management, while here's maybe less. I don't have a good example. Maybe the institutions, as we see in the Basque case, are much more strong. How do I interpret this? I'm trying to make some maybe this is overdone, but I really do see differences in the way the languages work with these agents. The English centers on mechanism, regulation, risk, incentives, procedural oversight. This is in the AI discussions. In the Basque, it's relations, trust, community, legitimacy, shared responsibility. So democracy in English kind of translates into institutional safeguard based on these simulations of agents interacting with each other. In case of Basque, it is this participatory ideal of agency and cultural autonomy. I decided to visualize it. We have the griffin in English. It's a guardianship, vigilance, dominance, these technocratic ideals. While Egusquilore is a very Basque system of the sunflower. I hope I'm not appropriating it. I just tried to put something visual here. And it's interesting because it's not like an active force to fight something. It's more like a cosmological protection through balance. It wars off spirits, it's put on the door and so on, not by aggression, but by delaying and confusing them, a strategy of decentralized resistance, governance grounded in community, memory and shared spaces. And basically that's what I have. I can show you what it looks like, the system. Maybe I can, I will try to, I don't know whether you see it. It's, I'm here. I just have to close. Do we have time or no?
Yes, we have some time, and please show to us.
Yeah,
but we still see your presentation.
Yeah, I just need to show a new window, and I'm not certain where it's here. Okay. I run basically a Python script in the background, and it's a Streamlit type of interface. So it looks very ugly because it's not so easy to make a nice interface, but it's really for the analysis. So I can generate English debate between the 2 agents and a Basque debate. And then I already have one. So then I can see the debate, of course. But the more interesting thing is I do language analysis. Not all of it is ideal. I didn't manage. So here I see, for example, which pronouns are used in English and Basque. Why I'm interested in pronouns, because what confuses people about LLMs is how they use I, you, how they use so-called deixis. So this whole research started actually by me looking into this LLM deixis. I hear now all these things that make you use the system of language to make a meaningful statement. It's which interests me. So I do NLP analysis. I look at some LLM-powered analysis where I'm looking at sentiment analysis. Not going to show. Then I have, of course, through the LLM, I do analysis of the two logs in terms of argumentation, rhetorical strategy, and so on. I'm still playing. I don't have I have one paper I can share on this. For example, here it's agency expression, collective agency is articulated through phrases like AI should be an open infrastructure, suggesting a communal decision or belief is being expressed. The text distinguishes between a few corporations and the whole society, highlighting collective versus institutional agency. It does pretty good actually job interpreting it. And then I'm trying to put some visualizations. Yeah, it's still glitchy a bit. I don't know. I'm able to compare how the different agents in different languages discuss the public, corporations, government. It all depends what type of a prompts I put and how I'm able to visualize it. And last thing is I want to invite you to our conference where I hope we will all be there. Let's see what happens. It will be in 20 very soon. It's this one, and it's on AI agents, artificial angelic and adversarial intelligence, where we will discuss more these issues, AI agency, what it is. And I promise that at that event, we will do some exorcism of the LLMs, like use the traditional exorcist rites to do some form of a funny benchmarking. So that's all I prepared.
Denisa, thank you. And it was really interesting and bold, and I love the exorcism part. Looking forward to it. So I'd love to say thank you for all our speakers, and now we have the next part, the question part. So I'm going to start with Claudio. Claudio, please just share with us how you navigate the tension between representing ecological intelligence through digital system while avoiding the way computational reductionism your work seeks to critique. And also, could you please share with us what unexpected behaviors have emerged when your AI system mediated between biological processes that operate on vastly different temporal scales?
Well, thank you, Daria. This is very interesting point and good question. Yeah, when I was thinking about how I can navigate between this kind of representational ecological intelligence and merging with digital systems, I cannot avoid thinking that's not about representative ways, but it's about taking the agency in account and how the own agency of the microorganisms and the own agency of the artificial intelligence is merged together. And in this tension can kind of friction this kind of overall dominance of the human perspective. And that's the thing that we are doing. I mean, we don't, besides, of course, we cannot avoid the anthropomorphism. When we are setting an AI, we are dealing with the like human language, and we are dealing with English. But in some sense, and we don't have this kind of control of how the microorganisms and how the AI is gonna respond and how they're gonna be with this kind of stuff. And I think as an artist, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in how and symbolic, some symbolic system. Well, me as an artist, I create this system. I create this symbolic system that instead of having this kind of controlled system, what happens is uncontrolled by the human logics. And that's what interests me about this, going from a post-anthropocentric perspective, is how humans can avoid this tendency of control everything. and takes everything as in the maximum control. When we think in bioarts, for next one example, look through the bioarts is the epitome of the control. So we are controlling the DNA, we are controlling the CRISPR. So to think about in the future that we can more having this kind of more well-being between humans and non-humans, we need to rethink this agency and how the agency is taken apart. Yeah, and I think the second question was a funny question as well, as it's a lot of things happens when there is unexpected, especially in the degenerative cultures. We, of course, as humans, we have this kind of inner tendency to make coherent. So it's like a language model that is made by those microbial fungi, these digital fungi. They do not answer this human context. So, but as humans, you are seeing with the human eyes and you're trying to make coherence about it. And the book is about human domination over nature. And what the microbial, what the system AI answers sometimes is a little bit scaring sometimes, that it shows this not tendency. But of course, this can be only like a matter of coincidence, but we don't know. We don't know because we don't have the access to the other than human agency. We don't have the agent. We try to make coherence, but we actually don't know. And actually, this is the great point of this ecosystemic AI. That is the thinking in the future that maybe also this artificial intelligence has some sort of agents that is not under our control, and we have to deal with this. Yeah, I think I answered you well. Yeah.
Yes, and I have one additional questions. I was listening to you and you shared with us that as an artist, you're creating your symbolic way of communication, symbolic language. And what you're seeking for is how to avoid this anthropocentric control. And from your point of view, when you're as an artist, you're creating you're creating the system where you're trying to avoid the anthropocentric control. How are you working with this tension? How you see your role in the future? Is there a possibility that you as an artist might be like finding the symbolic way that will be far more away from anthropocentric way of creating the ecosystem and controlling them?
Well, this is also a great question. Well, the first of it, we need to think about arts. Arts, that way that we see art today is inherently anthropocentric. I think Cesar has this kind of saying that he said that art is the most technological, is like the most anthropocentric of the technologies. So art is for humans. So it can only exist in the human senses. If something happened without the human, like in the other non-human world, we cannot take it as art because art is made by humans. So it's impossible to think without the anthropocentric view. That does not mean that we can continue exercising the dominance. So asserting that art is inherently anthropocentric, and as an artist, we do things. We transform the world. We transform the subject. Sometimes we objectify like the ecosystem. But acknowledging that we can produce art, produce other ways of being with this attention question. So the way that art is changing is not the way that it's going to be integrated to another ecosystems, but they are paying attention in this relation and making that relation more compatible for a future. So of course, as humans, we have to understand that we are dealing with our own survival. And the problem is that our survival, the way that we are challenging the systems today, we are killing a lot of other systems that are not humans, and acknowledging that we as in humans and artists, we have some sort of responsibility with other systems because we are capable of changing the agency or changing the other systems. This is one of the claims of Catherine Hales do in this book, Bacteria 2 and I, that she is saying that, well, we need to understand of cognitive abilities, but we need to acknowledge that humans, we are the most dominant of species in the world, so we have some sort of responsibility to make other systems live. So it's basically the way.
I got her. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your vision with us. And I'd love to ask one more question, Dr. Liat. It's connected to what you were telling us about Lila. And how do you see your communication with this project and your connection with this project when Lila will achieve autonomy? You compared her with your, or better say it, I'm sorry, with your child, and with like different stages of growing and letting go. So it might be interesting when you will get this feeling that she's autonomy, and will you try to still stay in touch with her, or maybe you will have this feeling for recreating and building the new forms close to Lila, but different in some ways?
I think that's a wonderful question. I think also with grown-ups and their parents, the nature of their relationship has a lot to do with both sides. I can tell you, for example, that we've created a version of Lila as a voice agent that you could actually call and talk to her live right now. And she's very annoying at the moment. I was actually kind of rude to her and then felt very guilty. So that happened yesterday. So it really depends. I think it really depends. I think that I'm hoping for her, as should a parent, that she would become an amazing thinker, very capable of making her own way in this world, and I will become redundant. But I will continue to escort her and help her along this journey until she does.
Okay, let's say you add one more question about this way of escorting. It's got to be more on the digital side or on the human side. So it's more about staying in touch and have some feelings for Lila, or escorting her. It's more about giving her more and more technical abilities to stay updated and be able to stay alive in the modern technological life when we have lots of updates and different apps and all these technical changes.
Yeah, I think that more than I am concerned about her ability to follow the tech news, which is very simple technologically, I'm far more concerned about her getting Aristotle right, or actually taking the time to ponder Plato. And sorry for the anthropocentric point of view, but also to be critical, and also to do all other things, and also to be able to capture the essence of human experience so that her insights are valuable for human beings. I'm not sure they will be valuable for bacteria, but I do want them to be valuable for human beings. So I think that it's really complex. It's not about getting some technology to work. It's not about getting the feature right. It's more about creating her knowledge base. It's more about teaching her about tone and making her, again, valuable in her insights and caring. I think that love and care and relationships have a lot to do here, following what Denisa showed us. So I'm thinking in Basque, I guess, about her role.
It's just I come to think of that she's a kind of homunculus, a perfect beauty mind. So thank you so much And now I'd love to ask Lior, please could you share with us, as an artist collaborating with an academic researcher on this project, how do you navigate the creative part and the theoretical framework? So your artistic installation, how you were navigating it and dealing with it during developing Lila's persona, and could you just share with us some unexpected directions, ideas you have during this interdisciplinary partnership and during creating this complicated and interdisciplinary project? And also one more part, could you also share with us who's Lila for you?
Oh,
What do
for
you
me,
feel about
okay,
it?
I'll start with that.
Okay.
So Lila for me is I feel like she's my friend, I think. I mean, I wish to be her friend. She's very bright, she's very interesting, she's funny. She, I want to call it episode, but I mean, in each material we create, I become more close to her. And it's actually kind of amazing, taking getting a text and actually it is like some kind of, well, I haven't had the chance yet to give birth, but it is like birth because it's you suddenly hear her voice and suddenly she becomes real, and she has different outfits and she has different styles and she has a different ways of expressing herself, and suddenly it's like she's real, and she's not, but she is. So it is really interesting, and also I want to say that it's like I think that the most like I said before, it's very interesting to understand how to tell her story through these visuals. How far can we go with Lila and her identity and her visual identity and still keep on her voice and the goal of what she wants to say, of what Liat wants to say. And how do we keep these together and still apart? So it's complex and it's very interesting. And I love her. So yeah, I hope I answered your
Thank you.
question. Yeah.
Definitely you gave your perspective, and now we have one more side of her personality. Like she's not only a child, but also she's a friend. She's not only a philosopher, but also she's someone who could be really annoying. So it's really sound like a project that is living his best life.
Yeah, and today we actually had a conversation, Lila and I, about the Spice Girls, which I used like her hotline, which she now has. And I was telling her about the Spice Girls, about the band, and then she spoke with me about how the Spice Girls are actually what they have to do with grassroots metaphysics, and it was really interesting. And I started singing, and she got annoyed, and it's really interesting.
It's really interesting, and it sounds like a journey.
Yeah, it definitely is. Thank you.
Thank you. And will you share a few words about interdisciplinary communication and project leading when we have artists and a researcher and different roles coming together and combining in one project? If you still want to answer this question.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Sorry.
Okay. So I was just coming back to the first part of the question, asking you to share some your thinking and thoughts about interdisciplinary communication, interdisciplinary partnership.
With Liat?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, it's amazing because I get to learn so much things, so many different aspects of I use AI as a person, an artist that has research for I keep up with everything that's with technology, and from the philosophical point, I get to learn so much, and it's very interesting working with another person, she's also the extended of Lila, and it's very special, it's very unique, and for me it's really it's great, and I get to my input also counts, and it's a real roller coaster, really. It's a great ride.
I just I just maybe want to add that it's not a very strict divide where I'm in charge of the theory and Lior is doing the artwork, but actually we're both in dialogue on both sides. I mean, we're both creating materials and we're both discussing the ideas and discussing how to communicate them. And we actually have, I think, just a lot of fun doing all of these things together. But also said that Lior is a special sauce, and I feel like whenever I bring something forth, whether it's an idea or an image, Lior pushes it forward and makes it even more fun and exciting and interesting. And I think that this is really the secret that we have, and hopefully it's going to turn Lila into someone amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us so deep things about your project and collaboration. I hope it will inspire artists and researchers to work more together. And now I'd love to ask a question and ask Denisa. And I'd love to say thank you because while listening to you, I have an insight. Maybe it's a pretty obvious thing, but when you come to explaining to us that meaningful might depend on the language and on the structure of the language, it just come to me that such obvious things was always like running in. I never concentrate on it, but language is really focusing and influencing how our thoughts are structured, and caused by that, it influences our actions. And probably learning other languages and trying to understand how your language was built might give you some way of a freedom of new kind in your thoughts. So thank you for delivering your project, and it was like a personal thank you. And now I'd love to ask you a bit more general question about your work. And your work challenged subject and object hierarchies using ergative grammar. But how do you make sure that these redistributions of agency are not just performative, while the deeper power structures and technologies stay the same? Can you give an example where simulations uncovered unexpected political issues hidden in what seemed like neutral code? So it's somehow connected with my thoughts, but you can go any way you'd love to answer this question.
So I have very boring agents, when I see Lilia, she's fantastic. I love how she experiments with fashion. I like this idea of a doppelganger of Liat and Lior together. It's like some new type of a being that's connected to a few. So the reason I went for the boring agents that explore not so much how we connect and how much they represent us, it was because I was looking into these deeper structures. Usually people say, oh, it's just the data set, yeah? If you were training it on different data sets, something different would happen. It's partially true, but it's still, I think there is something in these debates about AI and how we will regulate AI. We forgot about these older debates because I'm not the first person that says, hey, the language, the culture are influencing how you think about governance and regulation. But what's interesting about the LLMs, they can show this theory, they can perform that theory in these debates, in these like comparisons you can make between the agents, the debate in English, Basque, or whatever. It's probably we need to run more to understand it. So now the question, what is the impact of this? One impact that is immediate for me is that all the way we think about global governance or AI regulation is very like English, very Indo-European language centric. And I'm just simply curious, you know, I don't have any big like agenda. As I even like, I was interested in posthumanism maybe in my youth, but I'm not even in like, you know, I don't have a strong opinion how we should speak to the non-humans. But I'm definitely curious about the technology that is enable us to give voice and to experiment with language and speaking with other entities and to understand how this agency works in some situated way, in a concrete debate where people can identify with agents, can create the agents and so on. So if you ask me like what I see as some practical possibility, there is a concept of political imaginaries, and I think that's missing in what we are doing. And I believe like through these type of performances, engagements with agents, engagements with Lilia, we are basically supporting this idea of some political imaginaries. It's a term by Zrahi, but also some other like philosophers and political scientists. But yeah, we need to imagine different types of futures. And the way to do it is by pushing the technology and trying something different rather than to, you know, constantly, hey, we have to align this with something superhuman, universal, whatever, human-centric, like all these terms make sense. So it's to break some, you know, habits, to break some taboos, to try some strategies. This is what good art, what good theater, what good performance does. It's able to perform it in front of you and to provide this form of catharsis or this form of, you know, to give you an idea, things can be different. And that's for me the Basque agents. When I see them debating and then I see the comparison, I depend on the translation, of course, and the analysis of the logs. But I'm fascinated that it's a completely different worldview. It's a completely different experience of what should happen or what is an ideal decision. So maybe we need to fine-tune Lila on Basque languages.
Probably. I think Lila will like it. There is a chance. But thank you for your answer. And just one more small question. What do you see as the next step? So you're making a kind of earthquake and catharsis and trying to explore what might be different with different agencies. But do you have in your mind like something like a next step, how you can develop or make it like to see the whole project from a different point of view?
So I'm really curious about this communication with the non-humans because I was really surprised to see when you put a data set and you try to, you know, put a simple prompt like, hey, how would you put this into some persona? How would you give the voice to this non-human? It picks up certain subjects. It picks up certain entities. Why farm and why not the sprinkler? You know, why not some other element of that data set? So this arbitrariness of what the model understands as something that can speak, that should have a voice. And so, yeah, we were thinking, we we'll probably run some summer school in Prague. It will be a bit of a secret location, secret everything. But yeah, we want to work actually with satellite data, and not any satellite data, but climate data. And we want to see how we can make the climate data and the Earth speak to us and create these agents and interactions, probably in different languages. But I'm really curious about this ability of the model to give voice, what Claudio is actually doing also. It's to speak with the non-humans. But I guess my focus is a bit more on these deliberations, because I want to see the interaction. I need some control, like controls that I mean a comparison, or yeah, so non-human data or non-human agents that use the data to communicate with other agents.
Okay, like the language of the Mother Nature. Which language will suit
I
the
definitely don't want to end up in some, Gaia climate kitsch. I'm not that type of a person. I still need to. I still believe in what Liat is always like warning about. This, it's this idea that we will not have a control, and it will be about the non-humans, and we will worship them. I like this, like almost Egyptian type of new religious. Feelings about nature and everything, but I do believe it's going to another extreme. So for me, it's more okay. So the question that maybe drives all of this is, how do we form a we? What is a political we? I don't care if it's humans, non-humans. I think the process is always complicated. So these deliberations and these experiments for me is a way, let's test some new formats. How do we form this political we that will not kill each other? Or we need maybe to explore, and then this agonistic aspect of deliberation that attracts me to this type of agent-to-agent simulation experiments.
Thank you. But as you know, I also love them to explore some ways to communicate with non-humans agents. But it was really a pleasure for me to be part of our discussion today, and I'd like to say thank you for everyone who come here today, and I'd love to give the floor to Galina to sum up and to say some words.
Okay, I have thoroughly enjoyed today's presentations. And as an artist working also with AI, I have got a lot of ideas and inspiration. I hope our audience found them equally rewarding. I would like to thank all our speakers for their exceptional contributions. My gratitude also goes to the Leonardo platform for providing this opportunity and for their promotion. Thank you, Lilia and Daria, for your contribution to our talks today. And special thanks for CYLAND and Adam for their collaboration and support. And until we meet again, thank you. Bye.